do have to change the thermostat. I'm pretty sure but the graph's going to change as the runtime max.
I am not YouTube fan at all. What's going on, YouTube?
Alright, cut. Yeah, this is not working. Need some soda. I'm not cutting.
You should just keep rolling all the time, probably. I just don't know if this is going to be going on the rolling times yet, or if this is going to be going on the new YouTube channel.
Ah, which one is that?
Oh, the other new YouTube channel.
How many channels do you have?
Well, I'm just going to keep making more YouTube channels until I have one that actually is successful. Mm-hmm. So, if you're watching, stick around because you're going to see my face on one of these channels someday. Today we have a 2014 Dodge Challenger. It's missing 2 cylinders, but that's not why it's here. It's here because it has a check engine light. I was told somebody took all the notes on this one, but the only notes I have here is check engine light diag. We know it has at least one code.
Every dream has a beginning.
So we're gonna have you guys
take the mic.
I don't want to take the mic. Mike Bazowski. Do I have to retake all that?
No. Let's just continue on.
So the audio is good. You check that live.
Yeah.
If I keep looking above you guys, it's because Max is a 6'6" beast.
Yeah, I'm actually holding this at my waistline. This right here is that eye line right there.
He's the best kind of build for somebody you need to push your cars around. He's not a great build for your camera guy, but
yeah,
he makes it happen. So make sure you guys thank Max down in the comments. Anyway, I thought it would be cool to bring you guys along with me and show you how I operate a diagnostic session on a customer's vehicle. To start, we usually get 1 hour at a time approved before we schedule anything for diagnostic repair. Sometimes we don't need that hour, sometimes we need multiple hours, but 1 hour usually gives us a pretty good idea, gets us to gather enough information, we know more about what's going on, we can evaluate from there. So first things first, I'm gonna grab the scan tool, we're gonna get plugged in here and see what kind of codes we're looking at. All right, we gotta plug our VCI box into the car here. Normally I'd be sitting in the car, but I don't need to make Max cram in there yet. Are you able to get a good view of the screen? We're going to do a smart scan. And typically what I like to do with a diagnostic process, have all that information before we start messing with anything. That way we know if we introduced any new problems or, you know, in the case where there's monitors not set, there could be problems that come after we fix this problem. And then we can explain to the customer that monitors weren't all set yet, so there could be other issues we're not aware of. Smart scan. When I pulled it in, I noticed there was something up maybe with the steering rack or an electrical issue. When you turn I'm assuming that has electronic steering on it, I don't know. But when you turn the wheel just a little bit, like everything was getting dim. So I'm wondering if there's something going on there. Looks like we have 2 codes in the PCM, 2 codes in the body control module, and I'm not familiar with the WCM, but we got 2 codes in that.
Windshield control module.
You might be onto something. Let's go ahead and get our report here. Okay, so we have 2 codes in the engine control module. They're stored codes. P0430 bank 2 catalyst efficiency, and we have a P0128 thermostat rationality. I did talk to the customer a little bit when he dropped it off. He said the last shop that looked at it told them they just need to clean the exhaust. So I haven't heard about cleaning the exhaust, but apparently that will take care of a P0430 and a P0128. Things to keep in mind about those codes are it's possibly related. If the car's not getting up to temperature, it might not be coming out of open loop. So it's possible that these codes could be related because a lot of times catalytic converter codes can be caused by other codes. So since we have two codes in here, if the thermostat's not working properly, the car is going to be running more rich than it should be. It's not going to be coming out of open loop. And, you know, that can damage the cats, but that could also skew the numbers so the car thinks the cats are bad. Also, we need to make sure there's no exhaust leaks. This thing has an aftermarket exhaust leak on it. This thing has an aftermarket exhaust on it. So it was pretty loud when I pulled it in. I might have missed a leak if it had a leak underneath. So we need, especially on that bank 2 side, we need to make sure there's no exhaust leaks there. I'm already thinking we're gonna pull up the oxygen sensors on the graph here. We'll get a good video of that for you guys, and we'll make sure all the sensors look like they're reading right. That can tell us a lot of info just from looking at the sensors there. Looking at some of the other codes on this scan report, what is this? Body control module. Those two codes are for the right and left low beam circuits, circuit high. It looked like this thing had aftermarket bulbs in it, so that's probably nothing that we'd be worried about. If we wanted to get rid of these codes, we'd probably have to figure out what kind of resistors we need to trick the computer into recognizing those bulbs. Wireless control module also, I guess, is the TPMS module. We have a code for ECM mismatch with skim. I'll have to look into that. And then a low tire pressure. So we need to make sure we check the tires, and maybe we can let them know if there's a bad sensor or just a tire that needs to be aired up. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this report. And I did want to check one more thing that I'm not familiar with on the Chrysler side of things. So I'm just gonna go into the EOBD. After we did the pre-scan on the Chrysler side, I went into the OBD side. For those of you that don't know the difference, with a big scan tool like this, we can access the OBD2, which is global. Every car has to have that OBD2. They all work the same. That's for emissions testing and check engine light and stuff. That was standardized in '96. Most of the modern vehicles have the OBD2, but they also have a deeper side where you can get more information through the manufacturer side of things. Now that is something you'll need a better scan tool than just like the little dinky ones you plug in from AutoZone or whatever. But that's how we're able to look at all, like each one of those modules and stuff. Now, I'm not super familiar with the Chrysler side, so it was just quicker for me to go into the OBD side, but I'm sure all this data is in the Chrysler side as well. But this is all of our emissions monitors, and the reason that we want to check and make sure they're ready, sometimes you can have a dead battery or somebody clears the check engine light. That's going to reset all these monitors. And if they're not set, then we don't know if there's possibly other things going on with the car until those things are set. It does look like all of our monitors are set. We have a couple here that are not supported by this vehicle, which is fine. All the rest are ready. So that means that nobody's cleared the light recently. Nobody's had a dead battery. Everything has gone through all the checks. So these should be the only two codes we need to worry about. But this is also good just to have handy. Say you get a car in and somebody did clear the light and 3 of these monitors aren't ready, comes in with a misfire code, you fix the misfire for the customer, you leave, and then they week later, hey, you didn't fix my car, the check engine light's back on. Well, you could show them beforehand that, hey, you had the misfire, but you also had some monitors that weren't set yet, and it's possible that you could still have a check engine light after we fix the misfire. So just all good data. You can't have too much of it. Let's go back to our OBD side, or our Chrysler side of things. I just did a quick Google search here because my shop data is over in my shop and we're in the film shop right now. Yeah, we got a shop just for filming. Thanks, Loha. Anyway, quick Google search, P0128, this is a thermostat code. Basically, it tells you it's not getting up to temp fast enough. And that's why this code's set. Could be stuck thermostat, low coolant level, bad coolant sensor, air in the cooling system. So I think before we drive, I want to drive this thing and see what it does. If it does get up to temperature, how long it takes. We'll look at some live data while we're doing that. But before I do that, I just want to pop the hood, take a look, make sure there's nothing obviously wrong with the cooling system. If we don't find anything, we might give the customer a call then and see if they know of any history of the cooling system being worked on. This time of year, it's pretty common for thermostats to go bad. So, you know, we could just be dealing with a bad thermostat stuck open. And that P0430 I know that's for the Bank 2 cat. That's just a catalyst efficiency code. What I want to do is look at the oxygen sensors and check for exhaust leaks and go from there. So let's take a look at the cooling system. Cold fill. This thing's somewhat warm. We are low on coolant. I mean, we're not like dangerously low, but cold fill's here and this thing's probably pretty much warmed up. I mean, it might have cooled down a little bit, but it's definitely not cold. I think we need to get this thing up in the air and check for leaks. I'm not seeing anything obvious. I mean, if it was leaking bad, it would probably be a lot lower than that. We might want to do pressure test. Another thing I like to do, because we'll probably end up taking this for a test drive, just because I know people don't check it. Oh, grab a rag. It might actually have oil in it. That's surprising for a Chrysler 3.6. Yeah, look at that. And it looks pretty clean too. Maybe they just had it changed at the probably at the shop that said clean the exhaust out. If we do have to change the thermostat, I'm pretty sure it's right here, so that's also good news. Let's get her up in the air.
Poor boy from the backwoods, thought I never would find my way. Sweet girl, straight from downtown, where I was just another face. They said that we should steer clear of each other.
Back up we go.
And gasoline, nothing but trouble. Said we'd never make it, but you ain't seen nothing yet.
There's a small leak here.
Right after the cat.
Right after the cat, there's a small leak. I don't know if this is Bank 2. So we got our weep holes here screaming. That's normal. That's so these things don't rot out. That lets the moisture out. But up here, we have a slight leak. Yeah, you can feel how hot it is coming out there. You can feel it leaking out.
Oh yeah.
So that, I mean, that's a really slight leak, but it's possible that could be affecting the cat code. That definitely needs addressed before we'd put a cat on, but that's good information. Okay guys, I just went up and got some repair data here. So the P0430, that is the catalytic converter code. At this point, I'm not too concerned about that. Exhaust leak that we found, that's actually not a clamp. I don't know what I was thinking. That's a flex pipe there. That may be causing the code. It may not be causing the code, but because it's something that is a problem and it definitely could be causing the code, we got to address that leak before we can condemn that catalytic converter as bad. What I do want to do is I want to get the live data on the scan tool, do some graphing for you guys and for myself. I want to record what those sensors look like. We're going to fix that flex pipe leak if the customer approves it. And then we're going to graph everything again and see if we can see any changes on the graphing. We'll also see if that code comes back. Basically, that's where I'm at. The P0430, we have a confirmed problem. We know that exhaust leak is an issue. The P0128, we also do have a confirmed problem here. If we look at let's just run down through this with you guys. When monitored, so this is when the computer is looking at the operation of the thermostat. Engine running, ambient temperature between -8 and 50 degrees C, 17 degrees Fahrenheit or 122 Fahrenheit. So basically cold start up to, not quite up to temperature yet, full temperature, but that's what it's looking at. Startup coolant temperature less than 50 degrees Celsius or 122 Fahrenheit, so cold start. Average vehicle speed greater than 10 miles an hour. So it's not really going to be looking at this if you're just sitting there idling. And it's looking at the time that it takes the temperature to get up to 185, which is basically operating temp. It's looking at this on a variable scale, there's not like a set amount of time. It's going to be different depending on the drive conditions. So that's why we don't have exact specific amounts of, how long should it take to get warmed up. Well, that's going to vary depending on the conditions. In order for the check engine light to come on for that code, the PCM has to detect that the actual engine coolant temperature falls too far below what it thinks it should be, the predicted engine coolant temperature, and the predicted coolant temperature reaches the predicted target value before the actual coolant temperature reaches the actual coolant temperature target value. It has to have this happen twice in order for it to throw the light, and it has to not happen for 3 times in order for the light to go out. A list of possible causes: low coolant level. We know it has low coolant, so really, right there is a problem that needs to be fixed before we should do any further testing. Thermostat operation, obviously that could be a problem. Signal shorted to voltage. Temperature sensors bad. Signal circuits open. Sensor ground circuit open. Signal circuit shorted to ground. Signal circuit shorted to sensor ground circuit. Bad PCM. I mean, the list just goes on. There's so many things that could cause this code. But we got to start with what we know. So I think we know the coolant's low. I think we should do a coolant pressure test, make sure we don't see any leaks anywhere. I think we should top it up with coolant. I think I should do the graphs for the oxygen sensors for you guys. And then really we need to call the customer, get approval on the exhaust leak fix, and do a cold start on it with it not being low on coolant, and see what our live data is telling us as far as the temperatures. We can look at some of these temperature sensors and make sure that the information they're giving us is accurate as to what the conditions are here. That doesn't completely rule those out as a problem, but at least gives us a good idea if we see something weird that's not working. Coolant temperature sensor reading, 20 degrees off or something, that might point us into a direction if we need to go farther than filling it up with coolant. So I went and stole the pressure test kit from ZB Auto. We're going to do a pressure test on the system. If you want to know how to do that, you need a pressure test kit. You need to make sure that your coolant isn't piping hot. Did you hear that? Psst. That's because it had a little pressure behind it, which is good. That means it can't have a big leak. You're going to want to look at the cap. Most times they're rated for a certain amount of pressure. So this cap's 18 pounds. That's the maximum amount of pressure we're going to want to put in the system. That's when the cap releases, so you don't want to overload it. You can actually cause things to blow out or cause more damage to the cooling system if you go above that 18 pounds. And for our system, we're going to find the cap that matches the cap that we took off. That's the closest match that I got. A lot of times these Chryslers are a pain because they use this style cap and it don't seal well. And what I like to do is pressurize this up to 18.
One eternity later.
18. So 18. And then we're going to do a time and temperature check. The time is 9:22. And it is 30 degrees outside in Bowmansville, PA. We might want to redact that. I don't need too many people knowing where we are. So I'm going to visually inspect this system for leaks. I'm going to keep an eye on this gauge, and usually just notice if the gauge drops a lot within like half an hour or so while we're checking it out. It doesn't necessarily have to be half an hour. One thing to keep in mind is as the engine warms up, the pressure builds up. As the engine cools down, the pressure relieves itself too. So this gauge can move a little bit. Sometimes you can get a little leak at the fitting. So if it's a real slow leak, this needle might drop a PSI or two over half an hour, and it's hard to use that as 100% proof that there's a leak somewhere. It's nice to visually find a leak. So we're going to just take a quick look and see if we can see anything. So on our visual inspection here, we just want to look at all the major cooling system components. Took that engine cover off so we could get a better look at the heater hoses back here. Just follow them, see where they go. See if you have any crusty buildup anywhere. Looking up here at the front of the engine, the thermostat's a common thing that can leak, the upper and lower radiator hoses, the water pump. Oftentimes those can be dripping a little bit and you won't notice it right away. So I like to take a good look under it, make sure there's no buildup of anything underneath of it. It's not spraying stuff anywhere. The radiator is a common spot for a slow leak because they're all plastic tanks these days. So where the plastic meets the aluminum part, sometimes it'll start seeping slowly there. Where's lower hoses on this side? Yeah, to be honest, I'm gonna take a peek underneath again with the pressure tester on there, but I don't see any leaks. It does seem like the coolant level changes a little bit going through seasons. So going from summer to winter, I have found it pretty normal for the coolant to drop a little bit. I'd say this is maybe a little excessive, but if this coolant's never been flushed or changed or anything, over time it can get low on its own. We're holding dead steady at 18 pounds.
Can you tell the viewers what you were doing?
Oh, I'm just snooping around for coolant leaks down here. We can get, right here's our heater hoses, so we can get a good underneath shot of them. Make sure they're not dripping anywhere. All I'm seeing under this thing is just salt. We can get a little better look underneath of our heater hoses, bottom of the radiator here. Here, stick the camera in there so they can smell it. So it might have dropped like a half PSI.
Well, can I get it to focus? You can't see it on camera, but it dropped like just
not even a half.
A little bit.
Probably like a quarter PSI it dropped. Dude, look at that coolant. I don't know if it's just because it's down in there, but it looks like it's got a bunch of it almost looks like it's starting to gel up. I don't know if you can see it good on camera. So Chrysler's weird. Some of their vehicles have purple, some have gold, some have pink. This says it's purple, but it can top off purple, gold, or pink. Generally, I don't like mixing, but in this case, I believe all the Chrysler stuff's compatible. This does look more pink than purple, but yeah, so it just needed a splash, really. I'd be surprised if that's enough to throw a thermostat code. So I think we do need to do a cold start tomorrow. Make sure the thermostat's not stuck open. I can see the problem already. Do you see it?
Sensor 2, bank 1.
Yeah, sensor 2, bank 2, which is this is the sensor that's in the cat.
No.
And that's the cat that we have a code for. So what we're looking at with the sensors here is the oxygen sensor is supposed to constantly be switching. That's what the computer's always making it switch to try and get it at the perfect stoichiometric air-fuel ratio. Now, after that exhaust air goes through the cat, we should see a flat line, which we're seeing on bank 1 here. But if you look on bank 2, we're seeing, it's kind of wants to be flat. It's kind of switching. So if these sensors are the same and there's no cat, they're both going to be switching. With the cat, working, it's going to be flatline like it is on bank 1. Now, the other thing that I should note is oxygen sensors don't work as well till they're fully up to temperature. So that could be kind of what we're seeing, but these sensors should be the same temperature because they both have been, the engine's been running for the same amount of time on both banks. So now what we can do to see, we can rev it up a little bit, let off, and then everything should go lean. So
it's a little difficult to hold the camera here.
Oh, it's all right. So what we're doing here, both sensor ones on both banks are switching like they're supposed to. The exhaust is starting to get warmed up here. And we can see actually bank 2, sensor 2 it's still not as flat as bank 1 is, but it's starting to, it's definitely getting better now that it's getting warmed up. Now let's do a quick oxygen storage test. So basically what we're going to do is create a lean condition by revving up the car and letting off on the throttle, and we're going to see how long the cats can store the oxygen for. And right there we can see the difference between these two. See how this one came down, it stayed down for a whole block and went up. This one came down, stayed down, and then halfway through that block it's already back up. So that shows me that the sensor can read we're creating a lean condition. The sensor's reading right, it's seeing that lean condition. It's just because of that exhaust leak, or possibly the cat's deteriorating, but most likely just because of that exhaust leak, it's just not performing as well as it needs to. Or it is performing, but the sensor's not seeing that because of the leak. So I think that's interesting. I want to do this same test once we fix that leak and see if we see a difference there. But that leak definitely needs to be fixed. It's a problem. Another thing that we can do quick, maybe a little bit better of a test. The cat monitor needs to be under load. It looks at the map sensor and it looks at the RPM. So you have to be up off of idle, and you have to have at some amount of load, whatever it determines from the map sensor, in order for it to run that monitor. So we can go take it for a quick drive and see, because right now we're warmed up. Bank 2 cat is a little bit off, but actually bank 2 cat's looking, decently well right now at idle. So let me just, we can go ahead and hit record here again, and I'll have Max hold this. That bank 2 is already goofing. You guys would be upset if I didn't take you on a test drive in the Challenger. The other thing to keep in mind is as the RPMs go up, as the load goes up, as the engine's flowing more air, that exhaust leak is going to be a bigger leak as there's more pressure. So it would make sense that at idle it's not so bad, but when you're driving and when you're under the conditions that the monitor is actually monitoring, it's going to get worse. That's plain as day right there. Letting off, lean condition. See it?
Yeah.
Watch that bank 2 is going to come up before the bank 1. See it? It's awesome that I know what's going to happen. So we just got back to the shop, and I realized the temp gauge was still not quite up to the middle, so
87 is dropping.
I had Max pull up the live data on the coolant temperature sensor, and as we were pulling into the shop, it had just got to like 83, 84 Celsius, which is under 185, which is what the computer wants to see. And it was rising, sitting there idling, but we also didn't have the heat on, so in the winter, you're gonna have your heat on, you're gonna be moving through cold air. I just wanted to take it for another spin and see if we can maintain our operating temperature or not, because if the thermostat's working correctly, we should be able to maintain operating temperature once it's up to temp. And it looks like we're not.
Dropped to 84, 85. It bounced a little bit. Now it's at 85. It's not going anywhere.
Well, 85 is basically where it should sit. So I don't know if this proves anything or not, but we're also working it a little harder going up the hill. I want to see what happens coming down the hill.
6-minute, 7-minute drive. It's already 10.
Is it? Tomorrow morning, after this thing sits overnight, we're going to take it for one more spin and monitor that coolant temp. In my opinion, I think it took too long to get up to temperature. It was kind of fluctuating if it even wanted to get up there. I kind of think if we would have went on a longer drive, it wouldn't have even reached operating temp, especially if we had the heat on. I didn't have the heat on that whole first test drive, so with the heat on, that sucks more heat out of the coolant. And, you know, it definitely seems to me like the thermostat could be stuck open or intermittently stuck open. In order to check that any further, we would have to pull the thermostat off and put it in boiling water and see if it's actually opening and closing, or catch it in the act of being stuck open. I think as many times as it takes to happen for the code to get set in there, it's very likely that the thermostat is stuck open. So we can give the customer two options on the thermostat code. Option 1, it was low on coolant. We can clear the codes and let them drive it if the code comes back. I think at that point, everything else in the cooling system is working like it should. We can see the sensor is reading correctly. We could maybe take a heat gun where the sensor is, which I don't know if we can get there, but we could heat gun the radiator hoses and see if that's temp gun the hoses and see if that's close to what the sensor's reading at cold and at warmed up. So that could just be another confirmation that it's not a bad sensor creating some erroneous data. But really, the cooling system's working like it should. If it's taking too long to get up to temp and the coolant's full, the only thing it could be is the thermostat not functioning as it is intended to. So there's our thermostat. As far as the P0430 code, through the live data graphing that we showed you guys, we were able to show you that the sensor is able to read correctly. We know that there's an exhaust leak that could be causing weird data from that sensor. So at this point, some people might say, oh, throw an O2 sensor in it, the graph looked a little funny. Well, the graph is going to look a little funny if you have an exhaust leak. So we know that we don't know for sure if the sensor is good or bad. We know with 100% certainty that exhaust leak's the problem. So we're going to have to call the customer, give them the option of replacing the flex pipe, or, I mean, if not, that's their only option. It's either fix the flex pipe or we can't go any farther with this diagnostic and repair. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully it gave you guys some info what to look at your vehicle if it has these codes. You know how to look at the O2 sensors now, graph those, and make sure they're functioning properly, the cat's functioning properly. You know how to check for exhaust leaks, you know how to look for coolant leaks. You know, obviously there's circuit problems, electrical problems, but those usually add some different codes into the mix too. So if at all possible, if the customer decides to approve any of the repairs and time allows us to, if it's something that I can film in the evening, I will bring you guys back for a part 2 and an update to show you what ended up fixing it, or if we didn't fix it. Do svidaniya, chuvak. So what we're looking at here, the left side of the screen is our upper oxygen sensors. These are the sensors the computer uses to control the air-fuel ratio. And what you want to look for on these sensors is a constant switching. So as the voltage goes up and down, up and down, up and down, the exhaust is going rich, lean, rich, lean, rich, lean. Now, once the cats are up to temperature and they're doing their job, the rear sensors on the right side here, we should see a flat line. They should be basically getting rid of all that. They should be storing oxygen and using that to burn up the extra fuel that is not burned off in the combustion process. So when we see a flat line here, we have a pretty good idea that our converter is working. This one is somewhat flat, but it also has some spikes here and there, and that's exactly what we were seeing before I swapped the sensors. So it's showing up on bank 1 right now, but we're actually looking at the bank 2 cat. So basically what I did from the reason I wanted to do this test is this is showing me the bank 2 cat is reading exactly the same whether it's on the wires for bank 2 or the wires for bank 1 going into the computer. So that basically rules out the wiring, that rules out the PCM. We already ruled out the oxygen sensors because we flip-flopped them. I just wanted to give you guys a little follow-up on this because my original problem that I found, the exhaust leak on the flex pipe, unfortunately we got the new flex pipe in there and it must not have been enough of a leak to affect it because it literally was like the exact same graph before and after. Now, you can say what you want, but either way, that exhaust leak needed to be fixed. It would have failed inspection. You can't have exhaust leaks under the car, so that's one reason it needed fixed. Also, you can't know if you're testing the oxygen sensors accurately if there's a leak, at least within, I would say, a foot or so of the sensor, before or after. At least that's what I was taught. I could be wrong on that. Let me know what you think in the comments. The customer did approve replacing the thermostat. We took it for a spin this morning, and I actually recorded the live data. But from a cold start this morning, before I started it, oil temp, coolant temp were at about 24 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty cold. Ambient air and intake air were both the same of like 42, 43 degrees. The car was sitting in the sun, so I believe that's the difference there. The oil and coolant sensors are under the intake, like down in the engine. The ambient air and the intake air are up top more, so they would have warmed up quicker than the other two in the sun. But cold start, we took the thing on a drive, just a nice leisurely drive. We weren't ripping on it. We weren't driving like a complete grandma either, but it took this thing a little over 20 minutes to get up to 185, and it was struggling to do that like when it got close. So to me, that's pretty much confirmation that the thermostat's either stuck completely open or sticking open intermittently. That being said, the customer has approved the thermostat. So once we confirm our issue here, I just wanted to look a little bit deeper into it after that flex pipe didn't fix the P0430. now we can let him know that he's going to need either need a bank 2 catalytic converter, or maybe he can try some clean. I've seen success with that if the cats aren't falling apart. Maybe it gets him by another year. But now that we know the converter's bad, we also may want to question, you know, what caused the converter to go bad. We don't know a lot about the history of this car since they just purchased it. But typically catalytic converters don't just need to be replaced from failing. If they fail, most of the time it's because they're getting contaminated with something. Who knows, maybe this thermostat problem's been a problem for a long time. If you're always running in open loop, you're going to be running rich all the time, and in a short period of time probably won't hurt anything, but over a long period of time that can definitely contribute to catalytic converter damage. Okay, we were looking at the graph I did this morning on a cold start. My first graph, I didn't have all the data points I wanted, so this is actually a little bit after the car starts. What we're going to want to watch here, the orange is our engine coolant temp. The yellow is engine runtime. That's the two important ones. We also have the oil temp and the ambient temp here, but we're just going to go across here. The graph's going to change as the runtime maxes out. You can see the orange, our coolant temp is slowly stepping up a little bit, stepping up, and there it starts dropping down, coming back up, goes up, goes up, goes up, goes up, goes down, goes up. And that up and down we shouldn't really be seeing. All right, Jims and Franks, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Let me know down in the comments what's going on with your Chrysler 3.6 liters and what problems you got, and if this video helped you solve them at all. Yeah, Max says it's time to go home.
No, you've been babbling for 5.5 minutes.
Max says, oh, I'm editing this video, so I'm going to have to cut like 90% of this shit out.